Yes. Yes, 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 yes. And give me just a moment here. Yes. Boo! Hello. And yes, welcome to the show. And since you're probably watching this on YouTube after the fact, and this is Carlton. Ugh. This is Carlton being his usual self. Yeah. Yes, that's my hand. What, like you think there's something different? Gee. Okay, Fuzzbutt, let me put you down so I can do the rest of the show. Okay? Get on. Good boy. Anyway, like I was trying to say before we got interrupted by a furball, welcome to the show. Since you're probably watching on YouTube after the fact, don't forget to like and subscribe, bell icon, the whole 9 yards. And if you really want to, there's a Patreon down there too. We are sponsored by Anycubic. The Anycubic Photon is the magic miniature making machine that conjures forth the miniatures from an enchanted potion, and you get things like this. And when they are sprayed and dry brushed a little bit to bring out the details, then, yes, where is? Yeah, there it is. They end up looking as magnificent as this. Now let me show you this. Let me show you its features. Sorry, Jorg. Had to give us a little shout out there. Zoom in a little. This is a miniature I sculpted for the Lost Dragons. This now the arm, the staff and hand is actually separate. But yeah, this is. Notice that the bottom is red because it's actually red resin that I primed. And let me zoom in a little bit better. Yes. And go back to normal. Yay. Now, let me put him back up. Aha, we have at least one person that has come on. So now it is not just a YouTube only thing. It's also live viewers. But yeah, that was the kind of thing that you can expect from the Anycubic Photon. And yes, I will be doing a review. I will be listing the good and the bad, and yes, there actually is a little bit of bad. But it's, from my point of view, minor compared to the good. Okay. Let me go ahead and let people know that we've gone live. Wait a minute. Oh no. Okay, there we go. Okay. Yeah, for some reason I lost broadcast there for a minute. And hello, Scott! Yeah, let me click this, copy, and go to promote yourself. So, once we got a decent amount of audience in here. We'll be bringing back up, and we'll be getting back to work on the bone golem from last week. I know that some of you don't remember him, which is why I'm going to go ahead and very briefly give you a glimpse. This is the bone golem. There we go, it's kicking back on. That wasn't good. Let me see if we can find out what's going on here. Meh. Okay. So, apparently there's problems right now. And it's not me. It's the network. And hello, Kim. Yeah, apparently not just me. I'm getting drop frames. Yeah, it's apparent network. Yay. And I mean, we're talking, my CPU is barely even at 27%. My GPU is at like 13%. My memory is at like less than a third. So it's not my system. I'm gonna real quick check on speed test and see what happens. So let's go ahead. And just to show you. Go. Let's see what I get on my connection speed. And download speeds, yeah, around 200 and something. Oh look, it's about 240, 246, 250, oh, 260. Download, 262. Upload. Oh, my upload speeds are a little slow. It's only 20 Mbps. Oh, sorry, 21, borderline 22. So yeah, actually 22, borderline of 23. Yeah. I don't think it's me. So, problems that I'm having, yeah, I don't think it's me. Okay, so now, like I said, we are going to be getting into resculpting the bone golem, and mostly doing his legs, and then coming up with a base, or doing a little detailing bits on the base, just to add in some fun. Yeah, I kind of guessed. Because it's Sunday night, and nobody does nothing on Sunday. Because that's the night that you watch your football, and then like if you don't watch football, you watch the Hallmark Channel shows, especially the Christmas ones, And if it's a Christmas Hallmark Channel show about a football player who gets the Ghost of Christmas Past and all that going for him, that's the surefire winner there. For someone just starting sculpting, yes, I will warn you. If you do the free trial of full ZBrush and you add in extra brushes like the seam brushes or the rope brush that I use on occasion, it doesn't, it won't let you add in new brushes to core. You can use alphas, which are those black and white images, but it won't let you add in new brushes. So, just to warn you. It also has no Z modeler. I don't know if it has the surface noise thing, which is the trick I showed earlier about making chainmail and scales. More drop frames detected. Yay! Anyway, what I probably got dropped saying was, I don't know if it has the surface, which is how I did that chainmail stuff, and scales, and quilt, any number of things. Yeah. Did I get stopped again? Yeah, I did. Okay. So, what we're going to do is we're going to go to whatever's causing the problem with YouTube. Okay. Drop frames again. Yay. Okay, real quick, let me... I have 3 people watching. That's Scott and Kim and... yeah. Okay. I had a little hiccup there myself. And for those that watched earlier today's show, that window had the sun shining literally directly in it. So I had a holy kitty. Now, waiting on Mickey. Oh, that is you. Sorry, it's hard to keep track. Okay, so I guess what I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to go ahead and pull up ZBrush and ping. And we're just going to get to work, and if it happens to go out while I'm working on this, well, so be it. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with polish. And I'm going to clean up this right here. Okay, so where did I put the... there it is. Aha! Keeping stuff behind your monitor is not always the best thing because you get confused as to what's where. Okay. Yeah. And we're just going to start off by just kind of polishing this flat a little bit. This is a very subtle thing. It's not going to be as dramatic as what we're about to do, but it'll help. And then we're going to smooth it all flat. And when we do this, once I've finished using the brush, I stop, and I hit the number 1 on my keyboard several times. And you see it transform, because it basically repeats what it's been doing repeatedly. So would a clone of Bruce Lee be a repeated Lee? Okay, that's good for the surface. Now I'm going to grab the... I'm actually going to grab the move brush next. And we're going to grab these... Oh. Pull this up, pull this up. Smooth this underside. Another thing that's been driving me crazy. It drives me crazy. Oh, I better not do that because I could get, the whole copyright thing going. Yeah, we don't want to get copyright strike just because I made a quote. No, we don't. See, when I first heard the phrase copyright strike, my first thought was, yeah, they really wanted to use baseball terms? Because, I mean, bowling, it's a good thing, you know. You want to get a strike in bowling. And now I'm going to smooth that. Then I'm going to smooth over here. Then I'm going to pull this up and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yay. Go back to polish. It's increased that intensity for the polish. No, that's it. Move still. Why? I click polish. Polish. There we go. Let's increase that intensity quite a bit. And we're going to go to sub. There's two ways that polish works. There's add and subtract. And in this case, we're using the subtract. Now we're going to smooth that. And then oh, I need to undo those because I forgot to shrink the mouse. Shrink the mouse. Shrink the mouse. Make it a little bit bigger and come around the rim. I'm going to do the same thing to the hip area because that hip bone is just getting kind of raggedy. Now, I would recommend that the size of this sucker is pretty big. If you're going to print it on something like the Anycubic Photon, don't forget to split into pieces, number one, and hollow them. Thomas Sandlanderer, or not Thomas, Maker's Muse, that's who it is, has a really great video on using Mesh Mixer to hollow out pieces. And it's a lot better in Mesh Mixer than to do it in other programs. It just does it more effectively. Bruce Lee proved he was proficient and became effectively. Yes, I'm probably going to end up making Bruce Lee jokes all night. Because I finally had a friend of mine confess, okay, Bruce Lee is better than Chuck Norris. He tried to claim that fight in the Roman Colosseum in that one movie was just because it was scripted, and not because Bruce Lee actually would kick the bachanda out of Chuck Norris. We all know Bruce Lee would kick the bachanda out of Chuck Norris, don't we? For resin, yes. There's one major reason why. Number one, the Spark Maker is, as of yet, I've seen good and bad. I would doubt its proficiency, its efficacy. That's the word, efficacy. Simply because it hasn't been out long enough, and I've heard some good and some bad. And the Wanhao, the D7, it has to be tethered to something, usually like a Raspberry Pi or something. You can't really do it on just the computer. Okay, I'm going to start off Now we're going to clay build up and switch into the poofy alpha. Is that the alpha? Yeah. Alpha 1. Alpha 1, are you ready for liftoff? And we're just going to sit here and make bones. Okay. I need to increase the intensity just a bit, just so I can not have to do so many overlays. First bone is an actual thigh bone, but it's the wrong thigh bone. Yes, I'm coming down here with the wrong bone. In the wrong direction. Alright, I'm switching. Yeah, I know. Slash there. Let's turn off lazy mouse. Let's turn off lazy mouse. Don't use it in this house. That's way too deep. Let's drop the depth right down. Okay, here we go. And then down this way. We're going to assume there's some kind of non-pelvic bone in the area where the codpiece would be. There's no fleshy material anywhere on this guy. If you think there is, well, you're fooled. It's an illusion. It's just an illusion. Okay. There we go. Nice sharp delineation. And we're going back to our clay buildup. Yeah. And I've got to remember hit this so I can remember the size per brush. And we're going to just kind of draw. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and build up where the knee is. It's an actual knee bone here. Yes. And then polish that. Actually, while I'm thinking about it, let's hide the arm. So I can actually, you know, get to the legs easier. So that nothing is in the way of the legs. Let nothing be in the way of these legs. They shall walk wherever they wish. And if they wish to walk to Poughkeepsie, let them, because I got no idea where Poughkeepsie is, except it's somewhere up north of here. And by up north, I mean, you know, several, maybe 1,000 miles or so. Yeah. Okay. And we're gonna draw in one right here. It's gonna be a little bit sticky outy because that's where it got placed. And then one more here. Actually, no, because another one up here. Then we're gonna put on a little ball and come on down, and it's gonna have a double ball, and it's gonna come up this way. And then we're gonna put on another bone on the side. Oop, way too big. I'll put on another bone on the side. And one over here. This is a scapula from some poor warrior. Not to be mistaken for a scalpel. Yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it. It's happening. And then we're just going to come to the same thing here. Although this is a scapula from a barbarian. But it's slightly bigger. And then something back over here. Not even sure where this bone came from. It's a weird one. But it's a bone. I know this because I made it. And I declared it to be a bone. Okay. So then we're going to just kind of increase the intensity even more. And we're just going to draw a couple quick lines just for generic bonage. A bone coming this way. And then one coming over here. Coming up here. Oh Lord. I hear Hallmark movie in the background. I don't like. Hallmark movies are full of glurge. If you don't know what glurge is, it's a wonderful article on glurge on tvtropes.com. Glurge is when something is explicitly intended to tug at your little heartstrings all they want. And it's just annoying as all get out. Let's polish this down. Okay. And go back to our clay buildup. So, I haven't died, have I? No, I haven't. Yay! Just checking. No, see, even Chuck Norris admits that Bruce Lee would have kicked his patukas. I mean, that's what I couldn't get through to this one guy. There's a interview that they had with Chuck Norris shortly after the production of Enter the Dragon. And he said that he is so very glad that the movie was just a movie, and that they had, unlike most Hong Kong movies of the time, they had actually choreographed their part of the fight scene. Because there was too many important things that had to happen for it to be a, you know, improv fight scene. Yes, a lot of Hong Kong era kung fu movies were improv, the fight scenes. All they know is, okay, you're going to fight for about, until I give you the word go. And when that happens, you know, you're going to fight for a while. And when you feel it's time, or when I give you the command, go ahead, and then you suddenly grab him from behind. And he comes up with the wakizashi and stabs him really good. And then he gets angry and kills you all. That's pretty much how a lot of Hong Kong kung fu movies worked back then. Oh, Mr. When you say he kills us all, you mean he pretends to kill us all because it's just a movie, right? Huh? Oh, yeah, right, sure, that's it. That's Bruce Lee. Yeah? And you're gonna grow up to be Jackie Chan, so what? He hurts me. It's okay, he buys you dinner too. Yeah. Apparently, when filming the only scene they had together ever, Jackie Chan was supposed to come up behind Bruce Lee and grab him. And Bruce Lee was gonna, you know, beat the stuffing out of him, and of course he did. But as soon, but Jackie Chan did such a good job of pretending to be really hurt that as soon as the director called cut, Jackie Chan kept up the oh, and this worried Bruce Lee, because this is like an 18-year-old Jackie Chan. You know, he's a kid, and he's like, "Are you okay? I didn't hit you too hard, did I?" And ends up buying the kid dinner. So yeah, Jackie Chan conned a free meal out of Bruce Lee by pretending to be hurt worse than he really was when he was a young, just starting out kung fu actor, stuntman. When Jackie Chan was, not Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee was always Bruce Lee. Anyway, so all sorts of interesting things on all sorts of random subjects you can learn by watching my show, also known as complete and utter useless nonsense that you'll never need for anything, like the history of Hong Kong action movie stars. Yay! And that's once again, actually, I've got to put in one. I got to put in one more skull, because this area right here is like screaming to have skulls instead of ankles. You know what I mean? So we're gonna go ahead. I said we're gonna go ahead. Don't do that to me. You understand? No, it don't work that way. And we're going to the standard brush, intensity down quite a bit, laser mouse off, draw size down, and go negative. Okay, now we're going to use, let's add in a little bit down here. Then slash, not quite so much and not quite so large. There. And then we're going to use inflate. And we're just going to carefully inflate. And then there. This is probably a goblin head. Or skull. Just because. And let's just move and kind of rearrange the structure of this skull to be a bit more spherical. Okay, and then get back to the slash and slash in the sinuses. Yeah, that's good enough. And then smooth out here. Okay. Now we go back to our play build up and just kind of draw down. And another one, and it rides the bus all the way downtown because dum dum dum. Another one rides the bus, dum bum bum. Another one rides the bus, and another one on, and another one off. Another one rides the bus. Hey, going to Main Street too. Another one rides the bus. And hello, Mark! So, we are getting this bone golem kind of in place and kind of awkwardly drawing on different kinds of bones. And all of a sudden, I have this massive idea. There's going to be a rib cage back here. Maybe from the same critter that had that skull that we drew a few minutes ago. And let's smooth that out. Okay. We're going to detail that rib cage in just a little bit. And then we're gonna come down from the rib cage, come over here. There's going to be just a ridge of bones as his foot tread. We're not going to worry about the other foot's tread because it doesn't have half its heels sticking up way into the air. Okay. Excuse me. And actually, while I'm thinking about it, let's go ahead. We're going to draw on where the toes are. And this is the foot from a giant, so there's really big toes, but there's only 4 of them because I kind of didn't draw them close enough. And we're going to okay, then we're going to just kind of dig in. This is still, we're in the area where these are giant toes. Yeah. Then we're going to add in some other bones here in just a minute. But I decided to let's go ahead and get the toes, potatoes, all done. This one's going to come up around there. Okay, and then drive up this way, drive up that way, drive up that way, and we're going to come up from here and just kind of hit that. In the same way, we're just going to go mirror, mirror, mirror. And now we go back to the clay buildup brush, and let's draw in a couple more bones. We're going to detail that rib cage in a little bit. But because we're not going to have all of the joints that he should have, this leg is actually kind of partially paralyzed because it's got a bone that goes all the way down. Because it's a bit larger than most bones, and it kind of blocks off that ankle. So even though it should have a joint there, it doesn't really. So apparently in New Jersey, there's a substitute teacher who decided she was going to be remembered, by golly by gum. And so she stood up before the first grade class that she was brought in to teach and told them there's no such thing as Santa Claus. Yeah, she told a bunch of first graders there was no such thing as Santa Claus. And like, who does that? That's not your place to tell them what they should or shouldn't believe. You know? I'd say that falls under freedom of religion. It may not be a religion per se, but it's part of Christmas. And I know I actually knew a couple kids in my school that were Jewish who found out from their parents that, since they don't celebrate Christmas, their parents were more than glad to say, yeah, the Santa Claus is like a superhero. He's not real, but he helps the kids, and all that. He represents to be the spirit of the season. And what did these Jewish kids do? They decided to keep the secret. They didn't tell anybody that Santa wasn't real. And we had talked about this, like, oh God, this would have been, we were like juniors in college. I talked with one of the Jewish kids from my elementary school, and he's like, yeah, we were all like, nobody tell them. Okay, so I have to refine and detail the leg bones, but this is the overall final structure of our bone golem. Yay! The bone golem base right now is just plain rock. For those about to rock. Anyway. Yeah, so anyway, like I was saying, needless to say, that particular substitute teacher got fired. We're polishing the edges of the ball, and just a quick run over just to get it. Number one, now the reason we're doing this, number one, it makes the edges sharper and easier to catch when you're dry brushing. And that's also, and the opposite is why we do the, we go in and emphasize the valleys between, so that someone doing a wash has an easier time of it. But this kind of thing is why Games Workshop miniatures tend to have some really weird edges and weird places. That and the current painting style for Games Workshop is edge highlight, edge highlight, edge highlight, highlight all the edges, which I find ridiculous, because some things are you lose texture when you do that. Like, perfect example is a Space Marine shoulder pad is almost entirely round. The only edges are at the edges, and only the top edges would even occasionally catch light, and yet they highlight all the edges. Blech. Blech. I don't like that style. That's just me. So how many of you have printed some of the figures that you've sculpted and painted? I know a lot of you have sculpted some figures, whether from my base or from your own, but how many of you have painted them too? Because when you look at something that is in your hands and you realize not only were you responsible for the sculpt, but you're also responsible for the paint, for the, the printing, the paint job. All of it was you. It just feels so cool. Going to slash. Some of these bones need a bit of a digging in between them, like right in here. Let's drop the intensity because we don't need it that. I don't need to be just barely holding on. Yeah, there we go. And we're going digging in just for a few of these, especially the ones that are really long. And this is for people who do washes. It helps emphasize that groove for that darker paint to rest in. Okay. We need to dive in right here. Actually, what we need to do, we need to go ahead and give it another Dynamesh. But this time at 1280. Dynamesh, go! I said go. There we go. But yeah, I mean, you don't tell kids that aren't your own kids that there's no Santa Claus. If you don't want your kids to believe in Santa Claus, that's your prerogative. And even then, yeah, there's no physical corporeal entity as Santa Claus. There's no spirit called Sinterklaas or Krampus, but what they are is anthropomorphizations. Santa Claus may not be an actual entity, but he is the idea of generosity made manifest. He is an incarnation in the minds of children and adults of someone who really does only care about doing good for other people and rewarding those who deserve it. He represents Fuzzbutt. No. Insane little Shinju. Anyway, he represents the reason. Even if you're not Christian, Christmas has become less of a religious holiday and more of a cultural holiday. A lot of people think that for Christianity, Christmas is the most important holiday. It's not. Religiously speaking, the most important holiday is Easter. That's what manifested Jesus according to the current beliefs as whatever it is you believe he is. Think about it. Christmas is a celebration of immigrants. No. You can't have it. Hold on a second, No. You can't have this. This is my beef stick. Come on, Fuzzbutt. Turn that off. Wow. Say hello to Shinju. There you go. No. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Anyway. But Christmas, as it is currently celebrated, is cultural. It is not religious. And that's ignoring the whole, some of the celebratory aspects come from paganism. It doesn't matter because they've been appropriated. And by I don't mean it in the sense that, the current political issues. I mean in the sense of one of the ways that the early Catholic Church would get conversions is when they came into an area, they found out what celebrations these people had and said, oh yeah, we have something just like that. We call it this. Okay, that's that leg done. Now we're going to go in and do this rib cage. We're going to start off with clay buildup. We're going to shrink it down. And I'm going to give it collarbones, unlike the ones above. And then kind of bring it down to here. And come under here and come up, under here and come up, under here and come up, under here. We're going to do the same thing on this side. Obviously, it's not enough bones for a human. And then we're going to use the slash tool. And we're going to double check down between these ribs. Again, to really emphasize a few things. I saw probably one of the funniest bits today. Is it's apparently gone around a while, but basically, like, I was walking down the street and this woman said, "Oh, you've got tattoos. Those are rather permanent, aren't they?" He looks down and says, "Oh, you got kids. Those are rather permanent, aren't they?" And somebody reading this says, "Well, technically, both could be removed by lasers." And I kind of stopped and hiccuped after reading that one. Exactly. I do like to say that it is probably best in situations where what you are saying or doing can be explained to the child later on as, well, it wasn't exactly false. We never said he walks around and walks right in, but we said his essence fills, the concept, couch it in words that you can say, well, I never lied to you about it. this is how you just weren't ready to hear the full bit, the full truth of what he represents. And, you know, that's like, you know, the Easter Bunny. The Easter Bunny is effectively Bugs Bunny with free eggs. Yeah, get a hard-boiled egg. Get it from Bugs Bunny. Because he's just, you know, the entity that used to be the Easter Bunny was a bit of a trickster who also represented, spring is in the air. Thus, bunnies and eggs and so many fertility symbols that you can't tell the kids yet. Yeah. You ever wonder what mythology would be like if you had to completely describe it using things in the modern day? You know, and you have things like Freyja, who's a fertility goddess of the Norse, among other things. Yeah, her holy symbol is a pregnancy test. Yeah. It represents, oh my god, am I going to be a parent? Or yay, we're going to be parents? Depending on the person involved. You know, oh yeah, that's Loki. His holy symbol is a joy buzzer. And I look like I missed the back, this entire patch right. Now Thor, if Thor was created in the modern day, instead of a hammer, his symbol, what would it be? Would it be a, you know, it represents the storms. So would it be a storm chaser van? Weather radar? You know? And we're an hour in. So it is going to take almost long enough to fill up the whole show. And of course, you know, being in the modern day, entities like that would suddenly take on new aspects. Like, for example, we know that, you know, storm being, you know, thunder and lightning, Thor would also be the god of artillery. Big boom, large flash, heavy destruction. Yeah, Thor's hammer would be 155 Mach. Mjolnir. It's a 155 millimeter artillery cannon with an unusually short barrel. And he can shoot it by himself. Let's smooth that out. Now that since I've given it a layer of dynameshing, I can smooth that out. Now you'll notice on the right, Dynamesh is still lit up. I'll show you what that means here in just a minute. .155 Mach, that's millimeter. That's the diameter of the shell that it fires. Then you got the Celtic gods. The Celtic gods were weird because they didn't really have a portfolio. You know, D&D tries to claim that this guy was the god of this guy was the god of that, when they tried to describe the Celtic gods in their various deities and demigods type supplements. But no, see, the Celtic deities, the Tuatha De Danann, weren't so much. Alright, there's a couple different ways that deities can arise. The belief in a deity. The most common one for the more modern religions, like, you know, Judaism, Christianity, the whole, even Buddhism. The most common method is revelation by a single source. Now, what that means is one person said, "This is what is happening," and that's the current kind. They deliberately set out to create a religion, or become a religion, or they may not have set out to become a religion, but to refine an existing one. Okay. But the oldest version are explanatory deities, where a deity is created as part of stories to explain a natural phenomenon such as lightning or thunder. Most of the Greek deities began as explanatory deities. The third kind, and this is actually more common among the Norse and the Celtic, is the culture hero that is deified. Okay, how's he looking to you? Okay, so now, just for the sake of showing just how big he is, I'm going to append another subtool, and I'm going to load in the Dragon Monk, and I'm going to offset him that way. I'm going to offset a Y in just a little bit. Yeah. This shows you how big this bone golem is, being that he's 15 feet tall. Rawr. And now we're going to just delete that subtool. Oh, it's going to be more than that, Scott. With the level of detail of all of these bones, if you FDM print, it takes a lot longer to do this than to do this. Yeah. Now, do you have resin, or do you print on FDM only? This is size huge. This is 1 foot shorter than a hill giant. Duncan Lucas hill giant would be about here. standing upright. How about, no, about here. Because there's a whole bent over thing. Excuse me. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to keep the base separate. And I'll show you some fancy, some stupid base tricks here in a second. We're going to have him be separate so you can print him to angle him, including perfectly flat. And now, remember how I showed you that this was still lit? Well, let me show you something. It's currently at 3.5 million poly, 3.533. I click and I drag with no mask on, and it redynameshes. And it's, you know, the poly count's still the same, but you see what I'm saying. If I had like grabbed his jaw and pulled it all the way out to here, and those polygons were horribly stretched, I do that, and it redoes the whole thing. I'll need to come over from here and yeah, there we go. Had to put that little division in there. Someone ring the division bell. As opposed to Tom Clancy's The Division, which from all reports is a horrible game. Okay, so now we're gonna frame it, zoom out, turn off Dynamesh, get him at an angle to where all of him is inside the window and he's not quite perfectly flat on. We go to Z plugin. We go to the plugin, Decimation Master. Now I'm gonna make this guy kind of polygon heavy. 75,000 points, 150,000 triangles. So go. And please work this time. Don't do the whole problems that we had this morning with some actual work. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Dynamesh here in a minute to subtract the feet from the base so that you have footprints in the base that you can just match up and... Okay, it fubbed. It fubbled. Let's try it again. Yeah, but so that way there's footprints, so when you print them out, you can just set them in the footprints and bang, he's done. Alright, let's try this again. I'm going to smooth out the bottom. Drop this to 768. And Dynamesh. And that drops us to 2.82. We really can't see any difference because we have ordinary mortal eyes. But the computer knows there's a big difference there. We're gonna go ahead and move it over. Zoom out. Put them completely in. Turn up inside the little frame here. And so let's hit that 75K. Click. Work this time, please. And it's coming. It's coming. Don't turn into computing. Because when it does, that means it gives up. Oh, it's stuck there at 30% for a few minutes. I was like, oh, no. Oh, computing, please wait. I hate that. Yes. So we're going to smooth out the bottom of the foot. Frame. Drop it to 760. Let's drop it to 700. Dynamesh. Dynamesh brought 1.08 million polygons. Less than half the polygons. Wow. So, we now hit 75K. It should go a lot faster. Just go whoops. And there it goes. And is it gonna, yay, it did. Reordering, writing file to disk, reading go Z file, and 150,025 polygons for the bone golem. We're gonna export this, simply put, as the bone golem. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this, we're going to move it up. Bone Golem is currently set. If you look over here, there's all these little symbols. We're going to click on this one. We're then going to Polygroups, Group as a Dynamesh sub. Click it. We're then going back to the subtool, we're going to the base, Geometry, we're going to click on, we're going to make this 768 and frame it, rotate down. We're going to subdivide it a couple times just to take care of that, and then Dynamesh. Processing mesh faces. Okay, it is 1.217 million polygons. Now, we're going to merge down. Okay. And remember how I said we draw and it re-dynameshes? Watch this. It's going to be a little bit more complex than it was. Yeah! See? It's got the one footprint here and the other footprint here. Oh, yeah. This is the base only for that, with footprints in the way. And you can like take fragments of a skeleton miniature and put it all over. Download a skeleton miniature and put pieces of it on the base. And now we are going to turn this into, let's go ahead and make it 70,000 polygons. Click. Analyzing mesh. Processing. And it looks like it's going to do. Yay! Reordering, and it is now 70,000 polygons, almost exactly. Once again, you see how in the flatter areas, like where the foot is, it's a lot larger triangles and fewer of them, whereas around the edges of these little structures, there's more of the polygons. You look on the bottom, the biggest and the fewest. But that is the base, and we're going to export this, the Bone Golem base. Save. And that is the Bone Golem. In the case of, well, there's multiple reasons why to do it. If you're doing it on an FDM, like an Ender 3 or whatever, it's better to do the base so that you can angle the figure for better supports. In the case of a resin print, Be very, very careful with them. Not drop them this time. Right, this is my Polyphemus. If I tried to print him at any angle in my Anycubic photon, he could not fit like this. I had to separate the arms, the upper body from the lower body, and the base actually had to be almost completely upright, because the base is like a third again wider than the smallest side of the Anycubic photon. So, it is now 9:15. We have about 45 minutes. Hey, what you doing? Give me kitty cat. Yeah, you baby girl. It's my baby girl. Yes. Yeah, baby girl. Anyway. So I guess what we're going to talk about now is, I can tell you a story. I accidentally made a friend of mine snort soda out their nose yesterday during D&D. All because I relayed to them what happened during a conversation on Discord. Alright, my work Discord, we'll occasionally get new people in, and we're scattered across the country. World. Got a lot of people down under, we got a lot of people in Europe, not so many people in Asia or South America, but there are a couple. And a lot of times all you know about someone is a screen name, and in my case, Valandar really isn't that descriptive of a name, unless I was, had ears out to here, wore chainmail and carried around swords. So, someone saw my avatar and said, "Oh, you're a white male? I didn't know that." I replied, "Dude, I'm so white, I don't even have any kids and I tell dad jokes." I didn't freeze. Anyway, so yeah. So I relayed that at my game. And one girl snorted soda out her nose because she was drinking at the time I said the dad joke bit. Anyway, we'll get some soda. Okay, so I said this earlier today. I'm going to repeat it. Number one, from now on, the Sunday evening shows will be at 8 and not 6, because I need some space in between to get naps in. I'm an old man. See the badger stripes and the beard, especially right here, the big old white tuft. Yeah, I'm getting old. And number two, most of you know by now, I'm getting ready to work on a Kickstarter for Giants. Polyphemus being the first and Grendel being the second. Although Polyphemus is technically a stretch goal. Well, along with each giant, there's going to be one or more additional files. For example, with Grendel, there will be a slightly larger than normal muscular Nordic warrior / barbarian, Beowulf, with the sword Garm. With Polyphemus over here, there will be his wife Galatea, basically a female hill giant, and one of his juvenile Cyclops sons, that if you wanted a full-size Cyclops, just print it at 120, 130%. There's a giant type called the Basajun. Imagine Chewbacca with the face of David the Gnome. Yeah, and carrying a 10-foot by 5-foot, or 10-foot by 3-foot standing stone that he tosses. It's gonna come with set pieces of standing stones and menhir. That kind of thing. Well, over the next few weeks, I'm gonna be sculpting the add-on, not the add-on, the side figures to go with each giant. There is a Kickstarter recently that is not doing well. The figures are amazingly well detailed, but they're unique, meaning you could only use them to represent what this guy has declared them to be. And the side meshes that came with it are only usable in the specific scenario he published with it. And he wondered, why is it not doing well? Because the figures are only usable for what that specific thing. You can never use it again. So with giants, yeah, that might be Polyphemus, but you could use them whenever you use Cyclopses, or you could even use them as just a weird hill giant. With Grendel, you could just use that as a troll, an unusually large troll, or just print him down at 65% and print him as a regular troll. You know? The Beowulf, well, hey, if you've got a guy who's a big, massive, muscular Nordic Viking, whether he's a warrior or a barbarian, there's your figure. You know, with the Basajun, those standing stones can be used as anything that you might need as for standing stones, as part of an ancient ruin, as part of a mystic, whatever. You've got to have versatility, not just quality. So, oh, and he was also charging almost as much as Daniel was for a third to a quarter of the number of files. You've got to understand what made Daniel's files so popular. There's multiple aspects. Number one, Daniel himself. Yeah, he's not a sculptor, but he had a vision. He did what an art director should do. He had a vision. He interacted with the artists during the production of the files to guide them, to give them something to work with more than just, I don't know, make a dragon. He's also very popular in the community because he is so nice. He's such a nice guy. Number two, dragons are universally popular. There will always be a market for anything dragon related. Number three, they may be dragons, and they may be specific dragons for the world he's creating. But I could take that red guardian dragon, and because of the structure of the horns, I could paint it black and dark gray and midnight blue and stuff, and use that to represent a black dragon in my game. I probably am, Mark. The sculpts are amazing. My Dragonborn are blown away by the actual dragons in this set. They are gorgeous, and they're of varying styles. You get the hulky, bulky magma mother, or whatever she's called. You've got the sleek wind dragon, that sea dragon that's just, wow. It's just some amazing sculpts in that set. And 5, you get a lot. Even before the stretch goals, you were getting a lot of figures for the price that he was asking. Those are the reasons his Kickstarter succeeded. You take any one of them away, and you take away a measure of success. When you only have one of them, you're not going to succeed. I mean, with my giants, I don't have Danny, but I'm hoping I've got a little bit of charisma. Giants are relatively generic, and again, they may be specific giants, but you could use them as anything. I'm hoping my quality, it may not be quite as good as something Duncan Luca could produce, but I'm hoping it's up there. You know, I'm going to have a lot of files available for the price. I don't think I'll be able to capture the lightning in a bottle that Daniel did, but it might be something to make it worth my time to keep making these larger figures and maybe open up a permanent store for some of the non-player character figures that I sculpt. But yeah, that bone giant will be probably about to his chin. Just a little bit smaller. Because he's supposed to be 17 feet tall. That bone giant is supposed to be 15. Now, is there anything y'all would like to discuss for the next half hour that I've got open? Oh, Scott, don't forget. Private message me your email address on Discord so that I can send you the final files. I'll have the base and the giant himself zipped up with a render of the final critter. Yay. Oh! Hello, Carlton. You want to know something secret? Shinju is the first cat I ever owned. Carlton and Ralph are the second and third, and they're tied. I have never raised a cat before in my life, and I raised 3 of the sweetest, most adorable, snuggliest little furballs. Didn't I? Favorite character to play during a campaign? I have played in so many different campaigns, in so many different genres, I don't know if I can even really answer that. I can give a list. The first character that I ever actually thoroughly enjoyed playing is actually the one that I took my screen name out of. Valandar the Red. This was in, it's either tail end of first or the early days of second edition, in like the late 80s, early 90s, that time period. And he was an elven fighter mage. Now, the way multiclassing worked back then was only non-humans could multiclass. But only humans could change their class. Weird. And if you were an elven fighter mage, you put half of your XP towards fighter and half your XP towards mage, which means for a while there, you would be of equal levels. You might be, you'd be 1 level behind everybody else in your primary, and like 2, sometimes 3, if you were like a mage thief, in your secondary. So everyone else is like, I'm a 17th level fighter. That's our 16th level mage and our 18th level rogue. And our 17th level fighter, 17th level fighter, 16th level mage. No, 16th level and 15th level. He's a 17-16 fighter mage. Whereas humans, Alright, so I am a 6th level fighter. I decide I want to become a rogue. Until I reach 6th level as rogue, I can't use any of my fighter abilities, and I count as a 1st, 2nd, 3rd, whatever. And then finally I hit that equal levels, and now I can use abilities from both classes. And then I decide, screw that, I'm going to become a druid. And then all of a sudden I'm a monk, I'm a bard, but that's if I become a monk, yeah. I can't use any rogue or fighter abilities until I reach 7th level in monk. Go figure. It's weird. Anyway, Valandar the Red was a fighter mage. He had dual weapons. He had a short sword that was his offhand weapon that was a flame tongue. Old school flame tongue, +1, +2 against flammable, +3 against ice using. Yeah. The right-hand sword was a unique weapon. Basically, they took the rules for Frostbrand and changed it to lightning instead of cold. And it did the extra damage against metallic or conductive targets, which meant that it was effectively a golem killer, an iron golem killer. He called them Thunder's Edge and Dragon's Tail. That is the character that's in my Thingiverse under the name of Valandar the Red. He was a fighter mage with long sword and short sword and boom, boom, boom. I stopped playing 2nd edition shortly after the Player's Options books came out. They were so broken. And that leads me into my next character. Because of the Player's Options books, I created a character called Kalkuritas the Whiskerondian. He was a dwarf. His stats. Well, he was I forget whether it was the hill or the mountain dwarf that got like a +2 to strength. But he had like a 20 strength. But, skills and powers, he had a 22 muscle and an 18 stamina. Stamina is your carry capacity. Muscle is your lifting ability and your combat damage. He had a 15 dex. He had an 18 con. That was also split. You could split stats in Player's Options. He had a wisdom of 18 flat. An intelligence of 4 and a charisma of 3. Mitas. He thought he was a barbarian. He was actually a priest. But again, because of skills and powers, he had fighter Thaco, fighter hit points, fighter stat bonuses to hit points. Yes, a fighter got more hit points from the same con than a wizard did, at least if it was above like 12 or 13. And he ended up having only access to healing, and I forget what the other one was, but it gave you flame strike. His way of casting Cure Light Wounds on himself was to grunt and slap the injury. Cast it on you, he'd go, "It don't hurt if you slap it." Flap! Also back then, you had to take weapon proficiencies with specific weapons. For example, you didn't get all simple and martial weapons just because you were a fighter. Oh no, you had to pick out longsword, glaive guisarme, war pick, specific weapons that you actually used. His 3 primary weapon proficiencies: great hammer, or maul. His primary weapon was a big old 2-handed hammer. After that came broad flat object. That includes doors, tables, sarcophagus lids, that kind of thing. And humanoid opponent. he'd snatch up the nearest humanoid opponent by the ankle and start wailing away until this one broken. Yeet. I know I deliberately altered the meme. And that was Calcutta. As it just hiccuped on me again, didn't it? But no, I have never played Gamma World. I am forbidden from playing any kind of engineer character in a Star Trek or similar styled game. Did you know that? By my gaming group. My old gaming group. You see, we were in Star Trek. And I decided to play a prank on one of my fellow engineers. I went to the sonic shower, and I reprogrammed it. Instead of sending out the vibrations that cleansed you and cleaned off all the fiddly bits and stuff, it played Mr. Clean, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Mr. Clean, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Little did I know that the Klingon security chief was on his way right then to take a shower after his latest physical, PT session. They eventually got the riot calmed down. All good. And it looks like we're having trouble again. Hi. How many drop frames do I have? Okay, not too many. Yeah. Then there's the fact that I've got a group that in a superhero game I used a time machine, 3 gallons of fake blood, and a collapsible knife to completely rewrite the religious history of the Western world. I'm not supposed to say anything more about it. So, and then there's the time that on the first night of gameplay, my trickster priest caused the overthrow of the government of the largest city in the campaign world. But they had it coming. They did. Seriously. I was thinking about it earlier, and really and truly, the only classes I have yet to play in 5th edition, I have not played a bard, I have not played a monk. And come to think of it, the only barbarian I played was Shumpy the Fop, a half-orc noble. His eyes say, old chaps, which one of you is my bodyguard? But when he got angry, that cane suddenly turned into a warhammer being swung two-handed. Yes, a half-orc fop. With, frilly clothes, the whole 9 yards. Okay. One warning. Halfling barbarian, don't go with light weapons. Go ahead and because you're gonna need to do the strength route simply because you have your choice of totem warrior, which is kind of or frenzied berserker, which gets an extra extra attack. If you're doing the 2-weapon style, you can either use your bonus action to get an extra attack, or use your bonus action to get an extra attack. Yeah. Okay, Kender. I don't have a problem with Kender themselves. I have a problem with 90% of the people who play Kender. Ugh! Are you okay, Fuzzbutt? Beep, 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 beep. Anyway, with a Kender. For those who don't know Kender very well, one of their shticks is they pickpocket everyone right and left, and sometimes don't even realize or most of the time, don't even realize they're doing it. Too many people take that as free reign to steal everything from everybody around them. That's not the way to do it. The way to do it is, the fighter says, I reach over and I draw my longsword. And the Kender pipes up, I hand him his longsword. That's how you do it. You don't go through and actually game the stealing of things. You just roleplay it. And you don't roleplay it by saying, oh yeah, I've got your watch. It's mine. No, you say, someone else says, I draw this out of my pack. I hand it to them from my pack. You know, simple things like that. I raise the visor of my helmet. I hand him the visor of his helmet. That's a little reaching, but that's like, you know, when you're like 16th, 17th level. That's how you do it. You don't go and say and make every roll to steal things from your fellow players, because you start getting hard feelings from your fellow players when you do it that way. Whereas if it's just a little running gag of somebody pulls something out, I hand it to them, then it's funny. Then it's something that, you know, it doesn't cause hard feelings. It keeps in character. It keeps with the original spirit of the class. Sorry, little rant on Kender players. And I just froze. Yeah. Okay. Now, that does remind me of another character that I can't play anymore. Hieronymus Everett Mapleton III. 2nd edition Halfling Fighter Thief, who was nicknamed Hyro Ballbuster. Because at 2nd level, he finally had the chance to actually do a true backstab on a 1st level human fighter. He had a short sword. He came up behind the human fighter, realized there's no way he can reach anything vital when you're 2'7". Except, fighter had his legs slightly wider and shoulder width apart for a standard fighter stance. Sword goes in, point up. Rolled a hit and I crit. Double damage. Backstab damage. Doubled. By the time all was said and done, I had done 3 times this poor 1st level fighter's hit points damage. With one. Ever since then, he was known as Hyro Ballbuster. The Game Master actually decided to have every male character present. In other words, not the barbarian or the ranger, because they were being played by girls. They were female characters, and they were just like, I can't believe you did that. But every single male character there had to make a saving throw versus spell or go, ooh. So yeah. So right now I'm playing two different characters. On Wednesday, I'm playing a fighter mage, or an eldritch knight, who is of the cloistered scholar background from Xanathar's. Yes, he was raised in a library and ended up being a fighter. Mostly because his mana pool wasn't deep enough to be a full mage. So he figured he'd find some way to bring back some old, lost fighting styles for the warrior mages of old. On Saturdays, I'm playing a half-elf wizard with 1 level of rogue, with expertise in perception and arcana. Yeah. Anyway, it is now quarter till. The sculpt is long gone. I'm going to be converting it from OBJ, which is what ZBrush exports, into STL, and then zipping it up and rendering it in that studio. Those greens that you see me render, one of those for this guy, and then zipping it all up and zipping it on to you there, Scott. So I'm going to do my usual 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here. And when I see that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it will be good night time. So, let's go ahead, and that is going to be a 5, a 4, a 3, a 2, and a 1. Camptown races sing this song, doo-da, doo-da.